Watch these groundbreaking media reactions to Trump's visit to the Middle East.
Trump's caught in the middle of an Arab love triangle. Two Middle Eastern leaders want the president all to themselves. 47 left Saudi Arabia this morning. The prince was so sad to see him go, he rode along in the beast and waved goodbye at the gate. But it's not goodbye, it's see you later. The president has more deals to make. Next stop, Qatar. Saudi Arabia had gone all out. Qatar said, we can top that. The Saudis had 5 jets escort Trump. Qatar sent 8. Trump watched the F-15s through the window, and they were watching back. We caught one pilot snapping a picture of POTUS. But the press corps, full of panicins.
You're going to be surrounded by 8 fighters, in about 7 minutes. And then you say, do we need them? And when they say yes, that doesn't make me feel good, right?
What's the threat? Did they tell you what the threat is?
No, let's assume there's no threat. We have to assume that.
Instead of lavender, the Qataris went with a Republican red carpet with gold trim, Trump's favorite. The sheikh met the Trump on the tarmac, and they rolled into town with a Cybertruck cavalry. Electric cars in an oil kingdom. Go figure. In the harbor, boats were using American flags for sails. The Saudis had white Arabian horses. Qatar had horses, camels, and sword dancers.
It's really breathtaking as we watch this together, Martha. It's a new dawn, really a resetting of our relationship with the Middle East. And it's not just the investment. It's President Trump doing things no other president has done, whether it be direct talks with Iran, Syria, the removing of the sanctions, whether it be Kashmir, intervening there. And now here you see him at the UAE, trillions of dollars of investment, $1.4 trillion in this very country.
So for the latest, we now go live to our senior U.S. correspondent, Mike Wagenheim. He joins us from Doha. He's at the Lusail Palace, and it sounds very festive there. President Donald Trump, Mike, looking for major achievements during this trip. So far, big meetings, warm interactions and exchanges between leaders, both in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Lots of compliments, too. What is the latest there? What can you tell us?
Here awaiting the imminent arrival of President Trump. He's scheduled to pull up here in about 8 minutes' time for a state dinner with a Qatari emir. They met earlier on today at the emir's seat of business at Emir Tawan and worked through these trade agreements that were announced later on in the day. As you mentioned, $1.2 trillion in economic exchange, but the harder dollars will amount to some $244 billion in areas like energy, workforce development, defense, and in fact, Qatar announcing a $96 billion purchase of jets from American company Boeing. About up to 120 jets will be included in that deal, though it could wind up being a smaller amount in the end. In any case, the economic impact that Trump wanted this trip to have is certainly carrying forward from some of those stunning pronouncements there in Riyadh yesterday. But, as you mentioned, it's not just economics like it was in Riyadh, at least up until his foreign policy speech last night. There is a significant and consequential geopolitical aspect here to the U.S.-Qatar relationship. And it's not any starker than when you're talking about a U.S. and Israeli contingent here today, talking about how to bring about an end, not just to the war, but Hamas's rule in Gaza, and how to bring those remaining hostages home. And by the way, Donald Trump said earlier today, effectively, he only believes there are some 20 living hostages remaining in Gaza and not 23, as is the more official Israeli count, though he didn't give any clarity to those comments today, but it just adds more urgency to the situation. There's been this uneasiness, certainly, especially with this administration, but it carries back to Democratic administrations about Qatar's influence in America, about their influence on American universities, the billions and billions of dollars that have been pouring in to college campuses, which some say have triggered those anti-Semitic protests that we've seen over the last year and a half. And certainly so when it comes to Qatar's influence over terror groups throughout the region, its alliance with Iran, and its patronage of Hamas, and a failure, many accuse its American administration of having, of failing to hold Qatar to account and failing to push them, not the Israeli side, although some say that's needed as well, but to push Qatar into finally triggering Hamas's demise in Gaza for the greater good of the region. Trump has said, we heard it in his speech last night about the promise that the Middle East holds, about how all the paradigms of years gone by need to be thrown away, how there's so much potential. But then he comes to a place like this, knowing what Qatar is about, knowing how they have a negative impact on the region, and yet we see a very celebratory atmosphere, all these deals being announced that have nothing to do with the hostages. It kind of leaves one to wonder again exactly what the American position is and what the American goal is going forward here vis-a-vis the Qataris.
Certainly top of mind for people here watching to see what comes out of those discussions in Doha in terms of securing the release of all the hostages. We're going to leave it for now, but we'll be coming back to our senior U.S. correspondent, Mike Wagenheim.